Hey there, I'm Lance, and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam, and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at The Queen's Gambit, the board game by Mixlore.
You've probably watched the show, The Queen's Gambit, on Netflix. It's an awesome show that tells the story of Beth Harmon, a chess wizard who grows up as a young woman in a field dominated by men. And it's just her story as she learns the game of chess, and she just completely dominates it, and just an incredible story. Well, this is a board game that's going to kind of put you in the position of Beth Harmon as you are looking at the board and kind of planning things throughout your head. You are going to be playing cards. It's a bit of a hand management memory game. So let's take an overhead look at it, and I'll give you a little bit of how this game works. Looking at the board here, this is the end of Sam and I's two-player playthrough, and if you haven't checked that video out, click the eye in the top right corner and it'll show you that video. But anyhow, all players are going to receive a gambit that they are going to be moving. This is your piece. This is the only piece that you move throughout the game. The tokens that represent the pawns and rooks, knights, bishops, queens, kings, all the chess pieces, they are not going to move. They're just going to be stationed out here, determined by a card that tells you how to set up the board. And you are going to be playing your cards, moving your gambit about the board, trying to capture the different tokens. Each token has a value on it, such as 5 for the bishops and knights. The king is worth 8 points, the queen's worth 7, pawns are worth 3, that sort of thing. And so you're just moving about the board, trying to catch as many of these tokens as you can before the other players move their gambits about. And the way the cards work, you have a deck of 12 cards. You're going to shuffle them up. You're going to start with 5 cards at the beginning of the game. You're going to play 3 face down in the order that you will want to play them in. You won't play them on the board, obviously. You'll play them down here. But after everybody has played 3 cards, then you'll draw 1 card back into hand, because at the end of your turn, you will always have 3 cards. And then when it is your turn, you'll flip over your first card, and that's how you will move about the board. So for instance, this is the queen, and I can move my gambit as a queen moves. Then it would be the next person's turn. I would discard my card, and I would play a new card at the end of my turn, at the end of my line here, drawing a card back up to 3. The next person would flip their card over. When it comes back to me, I flip over my second card. That's how the game works. So you do have to remember what these cards are. As you are not allowed to peek at them. Once they're down, they're down. You have to remember them. If your deck runs out, you just reshuffle it, and you play until all the tokens have been captured. It's that simple. You do get a player aid here that helps you to learn how a queen moves, how a bishop moves, a rook, and a knight, as that is the only cards that are in your deck, those 4 different pieces. Let's come back up top. All right, there you have it. That's how the Queen's Gambit works, and it's very simple. It's not a very hard game to learn. Would you agree with that, Sam?
Yeah, it's a very simple game.
Yeah, much more so than actual chess, I feel like, as you don't have to...
I mean, they could have just done a chess game and labeled it the Queen's Gambit.
They totally could have, and people would have bought it, as silly as that is. They could have done a cash grab on that, but this actually has a game to it that is not chess. It's different. What were your thoughts about it as a non-gamer?
I mean, it can be a very quiet game. Lance talked obviously through our playthrough to let our audience know what we were doing.
Narrate it.
There really, you can play an entire game without any talking, and sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah.
And I like that, the thinkingness to it, trying to remember your pieces. After a certain point, it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters what you're laying down, but you're both competing with the same pieces. So 3 cards away, it's going to be a completely different game than what it was when you laid that card down. But you kind of have to adapt to that and kind of figure out, okay, well, I can't get this one anymore, but maybe I could go for this one because I'm pretty sure I know what my next card is.
Right.
So there's some memory to it for sure, but it is a very simple game.
Let me ask you, as a non-gamer, the memory aspect and it's sort of like programmable movement because you're playing a card and you're stuck in that movement. You can't change it.
Yeah.
What is that like for you as a non-gamer, and how fun is that for you?
That's a hard one. I think it can be frustrating because you have this, at the beginning you have a goal, and at the beginning you're kind of working, in this game at least, we're kind of working on opposite ends of the board, and then at some point those pieces,
there's going to be player interaction.
Yeah, and then you're like, well, that's exactly what I was going for. So you have to change up your game plan while also trying to remember what that card was.
Yeah.
And it may not be able to get any point at that time. And so what's the next one? How can you kind of catch back up? But it can be frustrating, but I don't think it's like a level 10 frustration. Yeah.
And I think for me as a gamer looking at this game, there are programmable movement type games where your plan goes awry, whether that's because of a mistake you made in the cards you selected, or if somebody did something on the board or to your character that just kind of jacked with your plans and your whole turn's wasted. At least in this game, there's usually other tokens out there that you can try and go and get, even with the cards you've already played. So there's a way to rectify the damage that has been done if somebody steals the token you were trying to go for. So I like that's built in with this, and that it's not a complete waste of a turn if somebody takes the one that you're going for. Now, Sam, I've played a lot of chess. I know you've not played a whole lot.
Play a lot of checkers.
This game is completely different than chess. Being as somebody who doesn't like chess like I do, talk
I like
a little
chess.
bit.
I don't have as much experience with
Okay.
it. So, when you bring out this game, you think it's going to be chess. You think it's going to be, I'm going to have to remember how all the pieces move. But it does bring the game in. It does move them, like a knight. That's how a knight moves, and that's how a rook moves. You just don't have all the pieces. So if anything, it's a good, introduction to chess.
Yeah, I think this game, there's something to be learned with this game if you are somebody who doesn't know chess, or you're wanting to get better at chess. I think this can be a teaching tool even. I'm thinking of like our kids, and our kids know how to play chess. They've done some chess games that teach them chess at a young age.
Yeah.
And I think this game can be a teaching tool with that.
Yeah, because I think it brings in that, okay, you have to change your plan.
Right,
What's
exactly.
next? It's more of that competition than just knowing how everything moves. Well, now you're introducing a competitor, but at a simpler level than full-on chess.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with that. And there's also that needing to remember my plan and going with it. And what I mean by that is like you want to think ahead in chess. You want to plan 3 turns ahead if you can, and you need to follow through with that plan. You do need to alter it, obviously, with what your opponent's doing on the board, but you just got to be firm in those plans that you're making, and this game forces you to be firm in the plans that you've made. So I think there's a lot of good things to take away from this as it relates to chess, and it's not just chess. It's a different game. So I think that's pretty cool with it.
I would have loved to see a higher quality game.
That was going to be one of my cons, yeah.
The board doesn't lay flat.
Well, the board's a little warped. I think that might be kind of our copy. I'm not sure if that's going to be a common thing with all.
I think it would have been really cool. I get that these are easier to like see on the board, but I would have loved to see like actual pawns, rooks would have been a nice numbers
touch. Yeah.
on them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it would have been. They could do a lot with this game. I think increasing the quality, but that doesn't affect the gameplay.
Yeah, it's an affordable game. They made this one at a pretty low cost, you can tell, but it works for what it does, what it's trying to achieve. I do agree with Sam. The tokens are pretty plain. It would have been nice if they could have been a little bit more, and
like little black and white castles and things like that.
And to have the same picture of Beth Harmon on everything is,
Yeah.
it's kind of like,
It would have been cool
could we
actually
gotten a
to
different
have,
art?
because you can play with up to what, 4 players?
Yeah, it would have been cool to have some of the other characters
Yeah, to
in
do
the show.
like you can pick a team almost.
I can't even think of any of their names, but the guy from Hunger Games, he should have been on one of the decks, and the Russian guy should have been on one of the decks.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that's just
That's
a minor,
semantics.
yeah. You do get quite a few of these setup cards that are double-sided, and so that's a nice thing because it changes up the board.
It's not the same game.
It's not the same game every time.
It does go very quickly with 4 people.
And so I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like this game is different at different player counts, but it's a good experience at each player count that you have. Sam just mentioned a 4-player game goes quick. It's lightning fast. So you better be good with your moves, and you better remember the cards you've played, and your plans are going to get disrupted. So you better be able to put yourself.
Also, it's over, and you can play a new game.
you better be able to put yourself where you have more than one or piece that you can go for, and you're not just solely going for that 8-point king, because somebody's going to get it before you do, more than likely. In a 2-player game, it's a slower build. And then it's like, oh man, I really got to figure out how can I get these last 3 pieces.
Yeah.
And that's not so easy to do. So it's a really cool experience, I feel Let's get into our pros and cons with this one. Sam, what were the things you really enjoyed about the Queen's Gambit, the board game?
I mean, it's very easy to learn. You almost don't even have to teach it. When you have this piece that's telling you how everything moves, and you simply need to say when you pick up cards and when you lay them down.
Just look at this.
You're talking 5 minutes to explain the game, which we do not have a lot of games that are that easy to explain. But it doesn't mean it's just a simple, boring game either. It's a great game with a simple setup and a simple playing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pro for me, and I think it's definitely a pro for other non-gamers.
It's a pro for gamers too, because when I look at this, my initial thought is I'm going to have to teach somebody how to play chess.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do that. You have a player aid, and you can just simply direct them to this player aid. Oh, you've played a queen. Well, this is how the queen works. Follow the lines.
And
that
you just
kind
take
of thing.
turns.
And you just take turns. So it's pretty easy.
As far as cons go, I mean, it maybe would be nice because after you play this a few times, I can see it kind of being samey. Maybe if there was a way to increase the difficulty. I don't know exactly how that would be done, but maybe some type of an expansion or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I've thought about it a little bit. What if the pieces were only, the tokens were only one-sided and you could put it hidden and you're not exactly sure what piece you're getting until you get to it, and you could keep that hidden until the end of the game so your opponent doesn't know how many points you got from it. That's just an idea to throw out there.
But in general, I think this is a great game. I think it's one that we're going to play often just because it's a nice, quick game to have on the shelves. It's easy to explain, and I think everybody needs games like that on their shelf.
Yeah, for sure. For me, I do like the fact that it does have the Queen's Gambit attached to it, even though it's largely just pasted on, but it's not completely pasted on because I do feel like you do get a little bit of a feeling of being like Beth, where you are picturing the pieces moving in your mind, just like how she was doing on the ceiling, and picturing how the game is going to play out. You do have to do that a little bit with this game.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. So that's a definite plus for me. All right, so scale of 1 to 10, love to hate. What are we going to give the Queen's Gambit, the board game?
I feel like this is a little bit, it doesn't fall in with all the other games that we've played because it is a simpler game. So it's hard. I'm going to give a high score, but I don't feel like...
Maybe on a different score set?
Yeah, so it's hard. But I really like it, and I give it a 7.8.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, you must like it a lot then.
Yeah.
Okay. I do really enjoy this game. I was really kind of surprised by it. I didn't know what to expect, quite honestly. A lot of times when a license is just slapped onto a board game, as it would appear with this one, they oftentimes don't end up being good games. Yeah, it's usually a cash grab. And guys, quite honestly, I don't think this is a cash grab. I think this is a solid design. And it's one that I enjoyed playing, and it's one that I think families can really have a good time with. If you're a fan of this show, I think you're going to have a good time with it. Even if you don't like chess, I think you could have a good time with this game. I think this is going to be one that's going to work well more often than not.
With lots of ages as well.
With lots of ages as well. So it's a pretty good game all around. I think the only con about it is that I think when people see that you really only move one piece and you're not really moving any of the other pieces, that's diverted away from what chess is, which is true, but it's not chess. It's a different game, and you just have to accept that. So for me, I give this game about a 7.4. It's a solid game, and it's one that I'm going to keep, and I wouldn't mind bringing it out and showing it to people, especially if they're fans of the show. So pretty good remarks from us on this one. You'd recommend it with non-gamers?
Yeah, I think it's a great one for non-gamers.
All right, well, there you have it. That's our thoughts on the Queen's Gambit, the board game. It's from Mixlore. Go check it out.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.